Imagine that you haven't drank water for a day and you have only seawater with you. Would you drink that water? Well, this is a possible scenario even right now, since great majority of countries nowadays suffering a severe water shortage. But again, referring back to the previous question, what if you could drink the seawater without any sort of side effects? Now, that process is called desalination. So, what really is a desalination? Desalination is defined as a process of removing salt and other minerals in the seawater, thus making the water to be drinkable. But the question here is, how does desalination work and how is it functioning? So today in this video, I'll tell you about those things, so make sure you like and subscribe to my channel and hit the notification button. Let's get started. Desalination is a process that happens all in the desalination plant. In terms of Australia, there's one in Sydney and SW. Desalination plants are designed with a state-of-the-art technology that are capable of being compressed and not being inflamed. Therefore, the costs of these things are massive. However, they do not produce a lot of water compared to the water stored underneath the ground. So countries like Australia is trying to further improve the efficient ways of handling those things, and the research costs $100 million annually. You might think that these research does not worth it, but when they find a good way to further improve the water production, the story is different. So, how are water purified by going into those desalination plants? There are 5 steps behind it, so let's get started. The first step is gathering. Gathering is simple. You basically gather some water to start the whole process. These processes are done by machines that sucks in water in beaches or other coasts. If you finish gathering, you move on to the next step, which is pre-treat system. On these systems, the seawater basically gets separated by big chunks of sand, oil and clay and organic materials. These materials are illuminated for the next step, where the salt, solution and the pure water are separated. So this process is done by 2 secondary filters, where they block those materials to go inside the main desalination plant. After filtering out those materials, those filters are often reused and other materials jumps back to the ocean again. For the third step, we have the process where salt and the seawater is separated, and this is achieved by using RO system. RO system uses semi-permeable membrane to exert the pressure right enough to make the salt solution to be separated from the seawater. The logic behind this is every material has velocity, and if you exert a certain amount of pressure onto one of those things, they will eventually separate themselves because they are composed with different materials and solutions. This process is called reverse osmosis, and it is the most vital step to make desalination possible. This process separates over 98% of salt solution inside the water. So, if you finish this process, we move on to the fourth step, which is adding chemicals. Okay, so the chemicals are added to prevent people from consuming unfiltered bacteria or pre-dissolved organic materials that are in the water. Chemicals such as chlorine are added to the water to achieve this. The dispenser of these chemicals are in the RO system, consisting of a tank, dose pump, and a dosing pipe. The tank in the dispenser is quite big, and it pumps over 1,000 liters of chemicals each day. If you have done this process, we move on to the last and final step, the cleaning process. Cleaning process is done by chemicals that cleans the remains of organic materials in the RO system, which is done sometimes manually. This process prevents infections as well because they imply a strong dose of chemicals that makes the virus to die off. As you always think, this process is indeed very vital for the power plant, as by mistake, the desalination plant would supply some infected bits of materials. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel and put thumbs up to it. Consider subscribing, and thank you for watching.